I'm reading from Colossians chapter 3, verses 1 and 2. Colossians 3, verses 1 and 2. Paul said, "If you then be risen with Christ, seek those things which are above, where Christ sits on the right hand of God. Set your mind on things above and not on things on the earth."
So as I sat down months ago when I found out I was having a devotional coming up, I started focusing, contemplating, thinking about what to present. And every time I did, I would start getting distracted and getting lazy and do something else. And so weeks building up, I was like, I should probably focus a little more and find a topic instead of just procrastinating too much, because then I'll be up here having to read word for word. It's not going to be good. So I kept putting off. So then I started thinking, why not dive into a topic and present something that's affects me and can affect a lot of proactive Christians or people of the world. And it's just being lazy, or it's having distractions enter your life, or excuses. And, it's something I struggle with, especially when I actually have something I need to get done, because I do put stuff off. And it's not just distractions, it's just losing focus, especially in services, in the world, in my job, anything like that. That's something that can really cripple, especially if you're trying to be a proactive Christian. And I was going to bring up, there's so many more distractions, not just spiritual distractions, not just distractions, in the church, not just distractions, there's day-to-day life distractions. I see it in my job all the time. Unfortunately, they can cause wrecks, damages, they can cause, missed opportunities, they can cause any of that kind of stuff. One result of distraction is my vehicle, which I'm pretty sure a lot of y'all see that big dent in my vehicle. And that's when, Noah is in his car and he gets a little distracted of when he's backing out too quick. So, distractions can cause all sorts of damages like that. And I didn't mean to call you out on that, Noah, but other like instances of that. So me and my buddies, we go work out a lot. We go to the gym, and one thing that we do a lot is bench press. And so, usually when we go on bench press, if we try to get, a high weight, usually we'll have one of us spot each other. And if, the spotter's distracted, so if Jaden's down there, trying to rep out a bunch of weight, and I'm supposed to spot him, and, I get distracted watching TV, he's going to be down there struggling. So, distractions cause damage, cause harm, anything like that. But the most important part we need to realize is, if we get distracted in our spiritual walk, how bad that can damage us. I, growing up, always had a bad problem focusing, schoolwork, anything like that. And I think Mom's biggest mistake was having me and Noah downstairs by ourselves doing our work. So we'd be down there doing our schoolwork, and Mom would leave us alone, go upstairs. Because obviously it was just Noah and I. We didn't get much work done. We would get distracted, and we would just mess with each other. I just always would be distracted. Services, growing up, and I'm not just talking about when I was a young kid, but like early teens, I would get so distracted in church service, which is bad. But I would think of so many scenarios, so many scenes in my head. I would not focus like you're supposed to, obviously. But I would think of, scenarios. I'd think of this scenario in my head, like if, bad guys or ninjas ran in, how many could I fight off? And then I would continue to be thinking of that instead of focusing on services. And so that was just something I would always struggle with. So obviously, we get plenty of distracted. And there's the result that I'm going to get to later on is going to be focus. I'm glad he already read Colossians 3, 1 and 2, because I did pick that out too, and I'm glad he already read through that, because it's just talking about having we don't want an idle mind, we need to stay focused. I was going to bring up Matthew 6, 31 through 34, which this one is taken, a lot of times this is about worry, but I feel like with worry comes distraction. Matthew 6, 31, 34, "Therefore do not worry, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or what shall we wear? For after all these things the Gentiles seek. For your heavenly Father knows that you need these things, but seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added to you. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about its own things. Sufficient for the day is its own trouble. Like I said, I feel like with worry comes distraction, because when I start to worry about something, my mind gets clouded and taken up of things that I could be focusing on. You lose sight of things. I think of Lot's wife, Genesis 19, the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. Lot and his family, they were fleeing, and the specific instructions given were to flee and not look back. I do feel like it could be a mix. That was their home. It was disobedience, but Lot's wife had her path. She knew that she had to continue. She got distracted. She got curious. She turned around, pillar of salt, and that was her end. I think of Samson. I think of Samson and Delilah and that whole story. Despite, Samson's ultimate strength, the physical strength that he had, the good he did, he got distracted. He let his guard down, and he let his guard down with Delilah, resulting in his capture and his death because of how she would badger on him about where his strength came from. Phones, TV, social media, work, school, people, trips, planning, stress, just so many things you can name off that can distract your mind and your time, and it's about how you manage it. I definitely waste time on videos and reels, and unfortunately, there's some of y'all, I'll blow your phones up sending and sharing memes and reels, especially at work. I'll sit there and I'll scroll through and I'll get on a roll. That kind of stuff's so time consuming, and obviously you can fill that time with much better, something much better. When I was a young kid, which I wasn't going to say this story, but when I was a really young kid, before bed, our family would get together and we would say prayers before bed. We'd circle up and say our prayers. And this is probably more so because I was just a really little boy, but when I would pray, in the middle of my prayer, I'd transition to a song, and usually it was like a church song, but I'd be praying like, oh, thank you for this night, and Jesus loves me, and I would start singing, and then I'd be like, and thank you for the blessings. And I say that because I was a kid, I was a little boy, but distractions can happen so easily. And, if you just let them snowball and snowball, then it gets out of hand. And like I said, this first part, I wanted to go over the damages of distractions. The damages and, what causes distractions of the world, the spiritual distractions. And the second part, I'm going to be talking about the solution, which is focus. We're going to have a couple more songs, and then I'll have a couple verses, and then we'll kind of talk about how to stay on the path of focus. Proverbs 4, 25 through 27. Let your eyes look straight ahead and your eyelids look right before you. Ponder the path of your feet and let all your ways be established. Do not turn to the right or the left. Remove your foot from evil. Eyes looking straight, mind focused, watching our feet, watching how we walk, not straying from a path, keeping guard, removing evil from ourselves. 1 Peter 1:13. Therefore, gird up the loins of your mind, be sober, and rest your hope fully upon the grace that is to be brought to you at the revelation of Jesus Christ. Girding up the loins of the mind, being sober-minded, having our strong hope. 1 Peter 5:8. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary the devil walks about like a roaring lion seeking whom he may devour. It says the same, to be on guard. Now, when you focus, good things happen. It's the opposite. When you focus, it's the opposite of, being distracted, stuff that slips your minds. You see, baseball, eye on the ball, sport players are always focusing and, the determination to train. People that have in a position of power, obviously they had the focus to get to those positions. When you focus and pay attention, good things happen, good things, it pays off, the hard work. I really love a lot of movies, and I love war movies, and I love war movies about true stories, and I love the heroics in them and the commitment and, like, a hero story. There's a movie, Hacksaw Ridge, and that's about Desmond Doss, his true story, and he was a medic in the military. And this story, Desmond was he was a highly religious man, and because of some of his views and some of his beliefs and how he acted in the troop, he was looked down on, and he didn't get along well with his fellow soldiers. But the story is they all got cornered and they basically had to retreat. Well, Desmond, because of the drive, the focus, determination to do what's right and to stay on his path to do what's right, he went back and he was able to save a bunch of his troops and save a lot of his fellow soldiers. Another movie is The Covenant. It's Guy Ritchie's The Covenant, and this one's a war in Afghanistan. And this one, the whole troop get ambushed, and the foreign interpreter that they had with them, he saves the master sergeant. They didn't get along with him because he was the foreign interpreter. He could have ran off and done his own thing, but he had the focus to stay with his troop and do what's right, and he dragged the master sergeant through all the planes, carried him. He could have saved himself, but I was just trying to look for war movies because I really liked war movies, and I was trying to think of times where someone in a movie had this focus and drive to do right. But then I was going to look for more movies, but the best place to look for somewhere an example is the Bible, and that's one of the final verses, Proverbs 3:6. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths. So acknowledging and following God, allowing him to direct our paths. Several biblical examples. Noah in the Bible, he had faith and focus to build the ark because he knew that's what needed to be done. Joseph, Ruth, Nehemiah, Moses. You can just list off so many people in the Bible that obviously they had faith, they had all these other works, but they had this focus, they had the drive to do something right. In our walk with Christ, we may fail. I go for walks, I like going for runs a lot, and usually I don't have a set course, but sometimes, if I plan on going a certain way, I'll deviate from the path and I'll stumble. So obviously in our walk, we may stumble. It may happen, but the main thing to remember is how to recover when you do stumble. It's how to get back on your feet and, keep focus. I definitely rushed through this, so I apologize, but that was the main focus. The main focus is just to stay focused. I will say, as I'm up here, just keep me in your prayers to, keep focus and definitely, keep God first and not be distracted by the world or anything like that. Because we need to keep God first, keep each other in check, keep ourselves in check. That's all I had. If you did have any needs, any prayer requests, you can come forward as we stand and sing.